Hello everyone, this is Espert, and we're back here on the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Hello and hello. Alright, now, I think we were about to get into our next trial, I think. That's Old Bailey defense. Alright, it's been just a short time since I played the last one. What was it? It's probably been about a week or just a hair over. Because I did a few videos ahead with the holidays and stuff there. So let's see where we're at now. Well, I never expected this. Who would have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it might as well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning! Ah, Mr. Natsume. Good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives, but whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can do this. I can't take it. Although, welcome student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. You know why that might be, Miss Susato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zieks? Is that right, Miss Susato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes. Lord Van Zieks is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seemed. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zieks' return to the courtroom after a long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're always speculating various answers. Mundane! Mundane is the most significant saga of the century to some. It is the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. But there's another blatant similarity in the trial of the 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Welcome student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. It's you. Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it was you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. That is true. We kind of have bad luck running. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student new to London with a little in the way of experience or skill or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end. I'll believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent Mr. Locknum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent Mr. Locknum assistant, Miss Mikitoba Esquires. He makes quite a mouthful when he talks. I am in your debt forever. I shall never forget this kindness. That's going by itself. Okay, Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way to the courtroom at once. Alright then, Mr. Natsume, it's time. Let's go. Yes? This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time I won't let my faith waver. I believe in my client to the last. Just like you believe in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. And now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and the defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. Ah, the shifty eyes. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London just 2 days ago, a mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a patriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true, and a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? You never know when you might be down on your luck. Oh, this guy. I believe in fair play for everyone. That's a banker. Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Cheese do. Oh, well, not me. What you see is what you get, and I'm a peace-loving fella. Oh, it's the wife. Afraid to say it's quite possible that mustache foreigner did the deed. Come on, what are you we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. So we know two of the people. Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zieks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the docks today is a student from the same land as certain Mr. Soseki. Soseki, not Sume. Oh, I will say, I didn't say this at the beginning. I'm sorry if I say anything incorrect or mispronounce something. Sometimes my tongue doesn't work, and I will apologize beforehand. I will do my best for you all, though, especially with some of the names. While our country has extended its foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, the student is accused of a most sinister act. Whoa! I'm surprised that didn't break. Plunging a knife in the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime? I tell you that from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are. Just look at the sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese. Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Sorry. Didn't quite catch that. He's gonna be hard to sway just because he can't hear us. Pray forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hollow chalice here in the great chamber. You'll probably do it a few more times, sir. I won't be surprised if you smash the bottle. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Oh, do we get to question Sherlock then? Your name and occupation, please. Oh, the magic fish and chips. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the event of the case for the court, Inspector? The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. First time we get to see who the victim is. Interesting. I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be? Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. What? So they don't even know who she is for sure? You think they would wait and see if she survived or not? Because then you don't know. I guess if they find him guilty here, he ends up going to the gallows anyway. Because it was ultimate punishment. I was going to say, if they find him in... I think I just answered my own question. I'm just going to stop there. Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger. Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. See, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, if she ended up passing while she's comatose, then it would be considered murder. Pray elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at the street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running along Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing on the victim, Miss Green, who was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. I thought they was inspecting the corner when we saw them. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. The file containing a case and details of the victim. She was found with a knife in her back and is currently in hospital, yet to regain consciousness. What of the weapon that was used? Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch! That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. Like a pocket knife. A big pocket knife. With a heavy blade like that, almost anyone would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even this raggedly looking Soseki-san, I suppose? A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather non-descriptive. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. Large but commonplace folding knife. It was found lodged in the victim's back. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment towards the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apparent from visiting secondhand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
Yes. If the theft and grievances have been ruled out as the motive, what reason would Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a total unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
See, I told you he was gonna break the bottle. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle in the public gallery. Dude, just don't do it. But your words have soured its hallowed banquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for a formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student. Yes, sir. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred. There was an unusually light fog. Visibility was good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought, he was on his way home from the bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out whose the books belonged to, and we found the book to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord, I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Oh yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I'll take the photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. Take him out. A large knife can be seen thrust in the victim's back. Your Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat, defying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, forgive me, Lord Van Zeeks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Mrs. Sato? Do go on. Mr. Natsume is admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that you mention it, when we were visiting him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us that what had all happened. As I was walking along the accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat. She was, just as I went to overtake her, she was suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed on the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat? Well, that's exactly what the woman in the print is wearing. Oh my, photographic print is full color. What will the world come up with next? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of a heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time. Just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there's nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. In fact, that the accused concedes. Ugh. But they keep saying that there was witnesses, though, too. So it wasn't just the two of them. Seems this cross-examination could prove to be a pivotal counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. Have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. Think he'll eat the magic fish chips? Throw it away. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It occurred and there was an unusual light fog. A light fog, you say? Well, light for London. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though. That's light, is it? Around these parts, yes. Not something I expect a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course. I've read that London is famous for its fog, but in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. How quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize. I expect you can appreciate. I see. At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage that they were pulling. Ugh, and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerned us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. In fact, no doubt emanated by the accused. Visibility was remarkably good, and there was no one else around but the victim and the accused. How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witness to this crime has told us. Ah yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witness yesterday, didn't he? That's right, one of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. That is correct, ma'am. Oh. Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will of course call them to the stand, should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city, the Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. Ah. The prosecution believes there would have been an ample light by which to witness the crime. Why, here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. Which means we really need to hear those witnesses' statements. If I could just get them through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. It seems that the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. From behind, you say? That's right. As you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in critical condition, comatose no less? I'm afraid so, my lord. Yes, she's being treated at Bart's. I was hopeful that she'd come around before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own accounts of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. Uh-oh. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of a tone is seriously undermined by those disturbing white eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Mr. Natsume's belongings. Think you'll find it all in there in the photographic print of the crime scene? Yes, 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were, and irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried off 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord. Yes. Those being a number of old books he just bought, he was on his way home from the bookshop. I'm curious. Can I look? I just want to look at stuff. I want to look at that. Okay, so he did only pick up 3 books. I was hoping the receipt would say more than that. Young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. Female, stout built, early 20s. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from the large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. Was seen running away by the reporting officer. Was successfully arrested the following day. Okay, examine the knife. Missing the tip of the blade. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. You're right. Well spotted, Miss Susato. Wonder what could have happened to it. Yes. You don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. Anything else about this knife? I like the little details they did make in this knife. Not like there's anything else really about it. Let's see if we can see anything else. Okay. Hold it. The defendant apparently visits a secondhand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. Shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The books room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. Which way was he going? Oh, it's right here. Closest secondhand bookshop to the accused lodging is this place here, Bourbon Books. Little place on the corner of the Briar Road, Mearscombe Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road on the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this. Okay. Yes, I concur with your conclusions, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think that's what the inspector just told us. It could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being... location. A crucial detail in which you just told the court inspector is the location of the bookshop. I couldn't agree more. So, where is it exactly? Huh? Are you winding me up, Sunshine? I just explained that. I got a map out and everything. You're using bloomin' red ink and drew the bloke's route home on for you. And I distinctly remember seeing you nod along, Counsel. Oh, yes. Yes, of course. I must have been so nervous. I didn't take it in. The blunder of the day goes to you, my learning friend. I must have clicked wrong. Maybe not. I don't know. No, not yet. The trial's only just begun after all. Mr. Naruhodo, I would strongly advise you to look carefully through the court records at this stage. Yes, miss. At what, miss? Sorry, I made a mistake. Okay. Let's see what... Here was the crime. Here's his lodgings. Your books. Was that the same? It's the wrong name. Okay. Continue with your testament. Okay. You told us the wrong bookstore. Yeah. We know this one. What do you think, Mr. Oh, I probably should have questioned that one. Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed. Yes, they're sure to find him guilty. One way or another, I have to expose it undeniable and can see in the inspector's testimony. Yes. Okay, let's skip through here. All over the floor. Okay. We can go through this part again. Okay. Well, if I must, yes. Okay, he's gonna tell us the... Okay, come on. Get me back! Bookshop's name. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know. I mean, yes. It could be a very important clue. Very well. Not that I can see it being any great significance, but please revise your testimony accordingly, Mr. Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord, whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, the second-hand shop he apparently patronizes. Okay, now we can present the receipt.
Objection.
If I could just stop you there, Mr. Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. This is a receipt that was found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and the details the purchase of the 3 second-hand books. You found that in the accused room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume? Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand shop not far from the Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it. But in fact, that is the bookshop with the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection.
Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchased this musty tombs, it makes no difference in the final analysis. I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here, if that might be of help. Oh, yes, thank you. Have me look at this. Look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would have certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at a different bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed the location at all. Could that be true? Oh my, it rather depends on what this bookshop is, but I declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely, I'm absolutely could be right. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. Turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Merscombe Street going east. The location map information has been updated in the court record. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now, he could easily have gone both ways, I think. My learned Nipponese friend, it's obvious in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticism. For your future career in the circus. You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you! I, didn't think I needed to spell it out, but there we go. And the accused was coming home from your books instead of the bourbon books. He could have gone this way. There's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. Can't he go this way? Yes, thank you, Inspector. Ugh. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Wherever the man purchased this musty tombs, it makes no difference in the final analysis. As I suspected, you can't fool me. I don't suggest you try. What did I say? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? The prosecution's assertion is correct. Members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. She's absolutely right. We must think. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. He claims Soseki-san would have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but... raise an objection. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defense used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was stabbed. Talking back to the clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way around. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, he's not from there, for one thing. The answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodging, since obvious perpetrator of his crime. He was brand new to that street. He didn't know that. He just moved there. But, oh yes, I got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself, Mr. Natsume, which route he took home. I've already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day has no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend. I suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around the subject. Pray, what say you insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... Hold it. I agree with Lord Van Zeeks wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean we members of the jury are completely convinced now? Very well, in that case I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to their court.
Guilty! 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 Guilty!
Oh, we're gonna have to challenge this again. It would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. Still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of the scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of a quarry not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your right again in this trial. Right of the defense written with antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense prerogative to carry out the examination if it so chooses. Very well, Consul. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm too familiar with the Nipponese whippersnapper and his onkus referral to throw in his alley. Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he had said that the woman had agreed collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be going. Your books, yes, nice shop, but bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. What? With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself, as admitted of seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. Oh dear, even the judge appears convicted of the Mr. Natsusumi's guilt now. Ugh, why did he have to run away like that? How are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that no one could see? This is impossible. How could I possibly make a case for the defense? There's a bunch of fog. You probably didn't see him because of the fog. Mr. Naruhodo, this is not time for grumbling. We want to force the trial to continue. Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. Must make the jurors change their minds. 4 of them at least. Exactly. That will get the banker to change his mind. We have no choice but to forge forward. You have the floor, Counsel. Begin your summonation examination. Yes, my lord. Just need to keep this trial going somehow. Wherever it takes. Come on, Rinosuke. You can do that. For pity's sake, the little Nipponese oddity already admitted himself, didn't he?
Hold it!
Excuse me, but aren't you... Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the side of it anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rushed down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going similarly until you started fossicking around Bruce Fairplay was a group of bad repute. Sorry. Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Ah, well, you know. Water under the bridge. Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. If I could turn it back the clock. Well, anyway, I don't even know about the Hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. I'm free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Haha. Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walk ahead of him. Well, quite, that's precisely my point. Clearly that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly the funny little Nipponese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit. But let's not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Oh, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. I mean, it's obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he could have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Just say what goes through your funny little minds. I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself had stated there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. Ugh. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple. Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you're too kind, my lord. That went well for her. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses of his way back from the bookshelf, not in winter. Uh-oh. No, I want to talk to him.
Hold it!
Whatever's the matter, young man? You're the wife of Mr. Deb, aren't you? The landlord who rented Mr. Natsume his room. The master's wife? Where'd you get your idea, sir? I'm the maid, you understand? She's keeping up that charade. Ugh, this is going to be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury of the trial, I mean. Well, I was told not to mention it anyway until the day of the trial, you see. I was in the letter I received. The instructor was very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodgings in your master's house, doesn't he? Yes, that's right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the man who would commit a crime such as this? Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort. What? Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. Man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors have been talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Oh dear, poor Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm, nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She's said enough things already.
Hold it!
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. Ah. A likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborers like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife with the kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after the cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's hard slogging from dawn till dusk, as is. So you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. By the old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence? That's right. Meerschaum Street it was. Meerschaum Street. On the map, Mr. Naruto, there's only 3 named streets. George named 5. I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What point is that? Can we get this business over with now? Please, sir. It's important. Fine, I'll do it then. On the day it happened, I was digging up Merscombe Street from dawn till dusk.
Hold it!
So, if I understand correctly, you're a day laborer and you're doing road maintenance that day. That's right. Like I said, you get a lot of bursting pipes and water pipes underground in the middle of the winter. The only time of year a fellow like me can actually make a few bobs. I'm missing out today. And when you say from dawn till dusk, well, the work has to be completed within the day. See, no coaches or pedestrians can pass while it's happening. I wonder if I could trouble you, sir, to mark on the street the exact location of the work you are carrying out. You have it here, then. Let me have a look. Right, let's see, then. Here we are, Merscombe Street. Yes, it was just here, like this. It was a tidy dig, I tell you. We had to get through all drifts of snow that had frozen solid. And at what sort of time did you finish the work? Well, we started in the morning, and we can't have finished before gone 6, I'd say. Then it stopped coming down, but it was long past dark for sure. That means the road work was still going on when Mrs. Green was attacked at around 5 o'clock. Road work on Merscombe Street, huh? Means he did not take that path. Oh, your books, yep, nice shot. But Burma books? No, not worth visiting. Oh, sorry. Fold it, you say? For what? No. I said hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you were talking about. And what time did you visit your books on that day in the question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and had been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you were talking about. Just before 5, you say. Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh yes, no mistake in there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry, not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped in the ice and dunked my head. Always worse when the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did, and I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road? Be funny if he was the one he saw. That's right, I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road in the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist that you add the information of your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. Oh, sorry. Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now. It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsumi's guilt. I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree, it's the irrelevance of what some of them saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsumi of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Nahodo, cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again carefully. If any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them against each other. Okay, I don't want him. Okay, let's see.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsumi could have taken from the your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean. What was it, Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows that he did, is there? Okay, him against the other guy. Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you want to get home as quick as possible. Well, yes. Why is all this true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that we went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing to you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I just don't make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason he might have The Calabash way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honestly, I would. The reason why he might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'd be able to sway this young man's opinion with that one. Okay. Not you. I'm gonna pit you. Against you.
Objection.
Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, counsel? Explain yourself. Please don't point. It wasn't me, I swear. Eh, what? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3? Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what had been said on our map at the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. On that same day, we now know that there was work being carried out on the Mersicum Street, making it impassable, which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Mersicum Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yeah, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that might be right, yeah. Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But, we see now that he had no choice. Oh. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may. Yes? I don't think I'm all good conscious that I say the man's guilty now. Good. We swapped one. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get on what really happened. What about you, sir? Who, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say. Good, we got 2 of them. We need 2 more, though. I think the little man in green. Maybe the girl that talked about the person in green. Oh, but well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It's strengthening our position somewhat. Yes, and it'll prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider the stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume. Well, we might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we gotta do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent. But whatever means we have at our disposal. I know which other 2 I want to pit. Thank you, counsel. On the examination, please. Yes, my lord. Not you. You. Pit you and you.
Objection.
These 2 statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasonings. A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel? Well, juror number 2. Juror number 6. Whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact in which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. He then returned home on foot. But the man says he had no recollection of his return journey. That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in the front of him on the way. Someone in the green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we were well aware of this. The poor young woman was stabbed, obviously. Can we really be sure of that, ma'am? Whatever you mean. I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. The same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my. My goodness, you mean... That's right, I'm referring to, of course, to hard-hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat, whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes, was the jolly old gentleman at the end of the bench here with me today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that. Oh my goodness me. Oh, sorry, you need to pee? And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person whom Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact junior number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long rounded road to his lodgings. If that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road, where the woman was stabbed, was not on his way home. Oh my. You idiot old man, if you hadn't been so daft just to be roaming around there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago. Oh really? What were you thinking wearing such a befundling coat? What did you say to me? Is it a crime for an elderly to walk the streets these days? Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat? Hold it! My lord, I do hope I won't cause any inconvenience, but... You like to change your leaning? I presume? I do declare that I would. I should like to call for the verdict of not guilty. Thank you. And I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well... Got 4. Well, that summonation examination is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The ayes 2 and the noes 4. So the noes have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means that we're no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
It'll be a little ticked off. Break it. Yep, they broke it. Where did he get the new bottle? Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hollow chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Why do you always say things like this, dude? Lord Van Zeeks? Seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet, we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh? Whatever do you mean? I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I said is the truth. Indeed, stalwart junior number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claimed. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which he had excavated, sir. That's right. Took me a whole day and then paid me a measly 2pence for it. 2pence? Now my learned Nipponese friend, tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? Yes, well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. In other words, a distance rarely vaulted by anyone of a moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong. No. What? Did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your work? I wouldn't dream of it. That's a waste of time. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway, and we just turned any gentlefolk back when they came. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have a little doubt, however, that he could sprint over the 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Ah! Is that true? Is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back of this lodging, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. Crushed in a single sentence. And, old man, you can talk. You said that around 5 o'clock of the day in question you slipped and fell on Calabash Road? Pray, was there a suspicious looking Japanese behind you at the time? Oh, I can't say I remember. You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that was the accused saw, but I would say 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Order, order! Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. My lord, if you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination? I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What? What are you talking about? My lord, the prosecution requests permission to call its next witness to the stand. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses. Its next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. Afraid that that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zieks brings to the stand as his witness, and no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. Now I know he's innocent. I'll keep believing to the very end, till this battle is over. Oh my goodness. Witnesses, please state your names and occupation for the court. He looks a little worse for wear. Constable Royally Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir. They look like brother and sister. And I'm Miss Beat, and Patricia's my name. Mrs. Beat, I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife. What's the story here? Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary the other day. No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually. Indeed, apart from a rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs and collecting taxes, surveying the streets, checking their meters are reading true. They're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lightening and extinguishing our street lights. There are a number of items in the list that don't sound quite much like police duties at all. I wouldn't be just falling asleep on my feet, I'd have collapsed a long time ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat? That's right, sir. Isn't it, Raleigh? Constable Raleigh Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir. What a great witness he's going to be. Very good. I'd like to hear from your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. It was our wedding anniversary and Raleigh was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went to help at the nearest police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Raleigh and I both saw him clear as day. Well, it's extremely compelling testimony, I must say. Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be squashed. It's a death knell, in fact, because the alternative was never viable in the first place. Unfortunately, Hansing, and on your wedding anniversary too. Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for an evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of the London Bobby sounds very hard indeed. Indeed, however, this cross-examination will be over in a minute. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learning friend, the witness, saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under the oath that it was without a doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less, so you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired, his wife had to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. What's gonna end up waking him up? He's gonna pop awake really good at some point.
Hold it!
No time to change after work, you say. Are you also a member of the police, Mr. Beat? Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I think you can probably see why children and elderly can't do the job, can't you? I think Raleigh looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling? Well, I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy. Oh no, Raleigh, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir. Yes, although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir, proves that I'm a London copper. It has the notable founding principles of force written on it and the reminder of all as policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London downtown and uphold the peace of the common man. So, and for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all near to here to feel safe and secure. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. But so, just as one particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat put up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold. If a little over the top, perhaps. And then kindly describe what happened next. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes? That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up the Briar Road in the opposite direction. There's a rather plump figure followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in his print, like Mr. Natsume. Yes, unfortunately, it does. And you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby? Yes. Oh yes, quite certain it was dark. But there are street lamps on Briar Road, you see. There's nobody else around at all, isn't that right, my darling? Well, oh yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground, but Briar Road was dead straight and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's street lights as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer please, Mr. Beat. You're quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir. As a cobbler who spends all day every day keeping watch on streets, I swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is too. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh. They're still maintaining that there's no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. Trying to seem like that must be how it really happened. Beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. They claim he ran past them too. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just for the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed? All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, then the other scattered something before running off. Scattered something? What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then we got closer, we realized that it was... Didn't we, darling? What? Oh, yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see, old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them all around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, it's clear as clear the picture in the photographic print. That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed. Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dock without question, sir. The mustache, the hunchback, cat-like eyes, the taunt mouth, the stub nose. Everything. Any more insults you want to throw in? That's right, he looked down on that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying intense eyes. And suddenly he threw his books into the pavement and ran away. I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please, continue. Yes, sir. We ran straight over, of course, and then we went for help in a wrapped police box. Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Oh, yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. I was off duty by that point, but a Bobby's never duties off. Truly not off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of the crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance. What do you mean exactly by right police box? Depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed was actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat that the incident fell under so she could go and report. I ran there as quick as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There was nothing more potent than the young couple in love working together, you see. Thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens. Oh, please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we? It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Raleigh and I both saw him clear as day. But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you? We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know. Right. The light from those street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he? Yes, and what of the fog? We're famous for it across the globe, I believe, but it's an absolute menace of those of us who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is. It is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm. Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about? The constant fog makes your eyes very sharp, you see. That's why you can tell for sure and certain that it was a little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling? Well, yes. It was the accused, and no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, top mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Soseki that they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruto? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day. Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for guilty verdicts after this testimony. Oh no. Then what do we do? If Kazuma-san were here... What are you trying to say? I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean, somewhere else? Their statements about saying Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you can identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them to make the jury doubt if its memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. But simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion. Ugh, why do I always seem to be so up against it? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right, is it? Well, out with it. What? No, it's not really that at all. My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. She's like holding him. I remember every last detail. Everything like, oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I can tell you the names of every single one I could, every single one. Oh, yes, tell me. Because I bet they're not right to the receipt. You had a question how reliable my testimony is? That will do, Mrs. Beat. No, it won't do it at all. A Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Raleigh will. I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fist down. But perhaps you'd like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you? Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene. 4? Shouldn't be 4. So that's it, is it? Their entire testimony? Nope. I need to question that. Should have questioned that and not skipped it. Okay, come on. Yes, we know that there are books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. With purchase of the accused at the nearby secondhand bookshop on the day in question. After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I am a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did for Raleigh. And what was your husband doing at the time? Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you know, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Mrs. Beat, seeing as you regaled the court with tales of your power of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? I'd be happy to now. Are you all listening? There was the picture of a monsieur somebody or another, and what's its yearnings. Then there was a meal for someone, and the last one was definitely the thing means something. You see? Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory. Oh well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure. There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what? Fact? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? Anyways, the sex man Patricia will have me to answer to. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. So that's it, is it? Their entire testimony. Okay. Now I know. We're gonna go and present the... I'm trying to debate whether it's gonna be the receipt or the picture, because I think there's only 3 books in the picture. But we're gonna do the receipt, because it actually says the book titles. I think. Well, we'll peek at it first. We'll see what book titles they have. Let me see here. Meal. Okay, so those are the books, but there was an extra book there. Maybe we should present this one then.
Objection.
So you're saying that there's 4 books? There's 4 books? That's right, I remember all of them. Picture of the monster somebody, what's yearning, meal for someone, and the thing on me is something. I'm sorry, Miss Beat, but there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. No, what flaw? Simply that at the scene of the crime, there was only 3 books, not 4. What? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, there's only 3 books. But no, that can't be. I saw them. I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me. Sorry. That big old lump of dead body. Well, so large corpse is blocking the view of the 4th book, that's all. Let me at least try to remember what the poor woman isn't dead, even if it were insulting her size. No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But Mr. Natsume could not have possibly have dropped the 4 books you described. Why not? Fascinating. And from your sort of tone, something you can readily substantiate with evidence, I presume? Ah, evidence. Yes, because he has a receipt for only 3. Counsel, you'll present evidence of substantiating your claim or withdraw it. What proof do you have the accused did not drop 4 books?
Take that.
The evidence is right here, in the form of his bookshop receipt. From your books? Yes, this receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchase that day. But as you can see, only 3 books were listed. No! Therefore, Mr. Natsume could have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime. Which means that your powers of observation, madam, cannot be relied upon. So, it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, that you could very well be mistaken. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. No!
Objection.
It's plainly evident. That is your powers of deduction that can't be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these two witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. The fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. Ah! So, you strive to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? Ugh, he sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. Did the policeman's wife and her entire accurate testimony in every respect? Oh. You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene of the Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found. But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. What print? That print. You mean to say... Allow me to present another one that shows the victim's hand. The Lion's Pride. Isn't that something that would be over at the other guy's house? Didn't he say he'd been at the bookstore too? I don't believe it. It's the 4th book. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Order, order. There, you see, look at that, look. Yes. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Purchase is all right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the book purchase on the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat the towel once again, if you please. Oh, yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or another. The picture of Monsieur Lecoy. What's it? Yearnings. Canterbury yearnings. Meal for someone. A meal for Rora, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book's tiles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Mrs. Beat's power of recollection can only be described as exceptional. Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless set. Picture says flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why would the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? Not odd at all, my lord. And the photographic clearly shows the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book. I wonder what became of the 4th book. Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigation officers of Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. You'll submit that and a further mentioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. I don't like that he holds everything away from us. We find things up as we go. My pleasure, my lord. Another crime scene picture. And the 4th book. The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend, but your resistance until now has been vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination and the attempt discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile. I walked right into that, didn't I? You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. So perhaps ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all the witnesses and seen all the evidence. This trial has run its course. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terrible, precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Rinosuke, think. What do you do now? We'll see. Hopefully this. I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend. It's over. The last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There's no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... Ugh, I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruhodo. One of this land's greatest guiding principles is tolerance. So the court will hear you, madam. Go ahead, Miss Susato, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished. I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you? Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. We must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. Can we look? Okay, let's see here. Lion's Pride. It's burned. It looks. Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt. You're right, you'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the later pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edge of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. Book recently damaged by fire? Why does it seem to raise a red flag with me? The fourth book of information. Yep. Wait. Probably. Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride. I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all, but it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride. That's strange. I think I have heard of the book by that name before. Very recently, too. It's how I recognize you, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay. Yes, I understand. And thank you, Miss Susato. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into the case and hitherto been overlooked. The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photograph print of the crime scene. Didn't I present the book? The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection.
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Ugh. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in the question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear? Oh, yes, my lord. It's, Mr. Nahodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track. I see. I think you might be right. So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue of this case, which is this fourth book conceals?
Got it.
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in the question. The back? What do you... Oh, good gracious. It's been burnt to a crisp. So we have asked ourselves, why was the victim clutching that what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection.
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Oh. Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there's nothing to discuss. So should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day, pray do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? Charred book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage the story home has suffered? The shop that sold it, it was not the shop. Its owner? My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner. I beg your pardon? But we already know who the book belonged to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. After all, it's obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as to the question of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly... Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you into if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book? The answer is that the book belongs to a couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. The landlords? And where this is some extraordinary coincidence or of some kind of fatal work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for the jury duty in the courtroom today is none other than Miss Garadeb herself. Oh my goodness. Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid. The thing would be so much easier if you had just dropped the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house? I would never presume to know all the books he keeps, sir.
Objection.
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say. You implicate this hard-working members of the public, you besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable. This is not merely conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed at the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. A whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bother thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. Oh, that face! Oh, I don't think we've seen that yet. Oh my goodness. By Jove, the very same title that's the subject of this debate. Oh dear me.
Objection.
This is risible. All you've done, the court told the court, is that the book by the same name was involved in a fire, in which case it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And the entire unreasonable to infer with it magically removing himself to the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going on to details, it appears that Mrs. Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb even amidst the flames. Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to one you love. Can you, Raleigh? Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia will never raise a finger to me, sir. Had all my favorite old novels in that case, but as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. And the wife started hurling things at me. There I was, backed up against the window, under the heavy enemy fire, and incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection.
No, as a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of the Garrideb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no signs of broken glass when we visited Garrideb's household. But it's not conceivable that the window was open at the time, and not even remotely. Let's not forget the season and the chilly weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would even leave a window open in the middle of winter. Ah, oh, but for smoke. Does the defense postulate the scenario in all seriousness, counsel? You earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrideb's wife? I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough. Oh, she's mad now. Well, I hope that everyone can see for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward. Really? Claiming that her little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight? Honestly, playing that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance sake? How could you? It's nothing to do with the beastly case, not at all. All you've done is sully our family's name. No, I assure you that was never my intention. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name to the mud simply to divert attention to your failing defense. I should box your ears. That's what I should do. Is utterly unforgivable. Too right. There we go. Now, how long have we sat here now listening to this nippity spout out his fancy foreigner theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with a mustache. And he ran away from the scene too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you? Makes sense to me. Sorry? What? Well, it appears that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... He put his leg up there. Books are your predilect. If books are your predilection, my learned friends, study them on your own time. What? No, forgive the discourtesy this time? Ahem. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability to the court for the court to hear.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Uh-oh. Thank you for that unambiguous response. It's twice now, it's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mr. Sato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their mind. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asked to exercise its right for a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve? I don't intend to trick anybody. I tend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I can stay strong and determined. To be continued. I was gonna say, my throat's about to give out, so that is a good spot to stop. I hope you've all enjoyed this. I like it. I really love this game. These are so much fun. I hope you're enjoying watching them too. Yeah, so next time we will do our next summation examination, and we will hopefully get to the end of this trial. I believe, at least with the Phoenix Wright games, the first Phoenix Wright game, each chapter was longer, so I do predict this one will take longer. It might be more than another sitting to finish this trial. We'll have to see. There's a lot to uncover, I think. But yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed. I have, and I'll see y'all next time in another episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Bye, everyone.